1, go.
Hello and welcome to the Hobby Hoarders podcast live.
Woohoo! First
I'm
live
your
one,
host Sam
Sam.
Larry, and I am joined by the ineffable, the impressive, the slightly underpaid Matt Geary.
But yeah.
Oh, you're gonna sneak in a second one of those at some point because in the last Patreon exclusive one about procrastination, you procrastinated on saying your own catchphrase. I mean, that's just embarrassing, isn't it?
It is embarrassing, yeah.
So how are you feeling? You're a pro at live. I am a live virgin, shall we say? That's a weird way of putting it.
I think it's just a lot easier to do it live, man, because like you said, you're not having to drive a long way. We're not having to faff around on a Saturday morning when we probably don't want to, and it's just a lot easier to do it this way and stuff. You can download it all off the off YouTube and then sort of do as you wish with it. For me, literally, for the Geek Pride cast, all I do is stick it, because I don't edit it at all unless there's really something wrong in it. I just add some music at the start, music at the end, and MP3 it. Job's done.
I mean, you said there anytime there's something really wrong with it. How many times have you tried to get us cancelled at this point?
So yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that maybe some of the guys might pop in. It would be good as well if I had thought ahead and posted this in our Podbean as well. But I'm still not really sure how that works. I sort of upload it and it magically goes to Apple, etc.
Well, there are 3 people watching us at the moment in time, Sam.
Hello, 3 people. I mean, one of those is me having it on the other screen just in case anything goes wrong and so I can participate in the chat.
Oh,
so
Sam, you're killing it.
I'm afraid there's only 2 people.
Killing it. Killing it.
The illusion, the fame. But I'll work out for next time how I can do that. We're obviously trying this out. So, how have you been? What have you been working on since we last chatted? The room's looking tidier. Is that my imagination?
Again, that's just a facade. Well, you can see the pile of crap that's sort of on the table there, because I did what I did last. I said I was going. So it is actually tidier. I got rid of a load of board games. Like you can see, sort of like it may not look like there's any less board games here, but there is literally a shed load of them sitting upstairs, getting ready to be sold. So I'm getting rid of Reich Busters, bar the one I've painted.
Oh, you are getting rid of Reich Busters.
I'm gonna get rid of Reich Busters.
You were umming and ahhing about that.
It's beautiful models, but it's just a single player game, really. I'm not overly keen on games where it's just against the board game.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We've discussed this before. You just like messing around with people.
Yeah, and me and my brother played it once, and it was all right. It wasn't a bad game, but it's just sort of, I don't think I'm gonna play it. So it's right. I'll get rid of that.
Being an adult,
and I took your advice, Sam, and I got rid of all the boxes. So all the expansions for Talisman, all the empty boxes, which I was like, oh, I've got all the expansions. It's like I don't need them, so I got rid of them, and they're up in the loft at the minute. I sold my Baratheon army. I sold my.
You sold them already?
Yeah, I sold the Baratheon army. Sold the who else did I sell? The 2 armies. I put the Night's Watch. They're still I thought they'd go pretty quickly, but Night's Watch still had to be sold. Baratheons went, and who else did I have that I wanted? Oh yeah, the Free Folk. So I got rid of my Free Folk as well.
The Giants.
Yeah, the Giants.
Is it because I beat you with the Giants that time? You're like, you know what? Yeah, never again. Did we not only play one game as well? I just remember you could have like gone on caramel. You were so salty.
Yes, it was horrible. The Giants were grim. But yeah, so I got rid of those. So I've literally just got Lannisters, Starks, and small thing of Targaryens, just because I kind of like the Mother Dragons.
And the neutrals. You've got all your neutrals.
I've got the neutrals, yeah. The Night's Watch, who I thought would be popular, are not.
I think it's because it's certain lists that are popular. Yeah, if you don't have the powerful list.
Well, the thing is, apparently, Night's Watch like super powerful and stuff. So
Yeah, but is it not like trebuchets in particular?
It's
units?
Like their crossbows. I think is their big thing. So
do you have crossbows?
I've got 2 sets of crossbows.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that, and I've just got a load of stuff that I've sort of kind of sorted. I also like all the Heroes of Normandy stuff. I went through it, punched out all the cards, and stuck it into like you organize sort of kind of trays and stuff. So it's like that. Though I've just backed the British expansion for that, which it can. I know I was trying.
Oh no!
Yeah, so that's coming through.
And the rule we discussed about this in mental health
do you know what else
episode
is really
about
bad?
not hoarding.
And
here he goes again.
You know what's really bad as well? The what's it called? Company of Heroes board game, which we quite enjoy, and I played actually a few times. It's quite good. The second edition's coming out, so I might pack that.
You've got the first edition, you don't need that. No, you don't need it. Oh my goodness.
Got the second edition. And
is it because you feel like you sold some stuff and so you have the right to buy some stuff?
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is, yeah. And ATP 485, howdy, well.
I mean, the thing is if you'd been doing it based on miniature count, because some people like this rule of, you can only buy after you've either painted X or sold X, but judging by how many models you have for your Waterloo battles, your gunpowder battles, you wouldn't be allowed to buy models again. How many are you up to? 4,000? 5,000?
Oh, it's more, Sam, because I forgot I ordered Prussians as well, so I now have a full Prussian army, a full French army, and a full British army. So the British ones are all made. So it's French next, then Prussians, then the all the buildings like Huguemont and Le
Why do you got the Prussians though? They weren't at Waterloo. The objective was to build Waterloo, and here you are just buying anything you like.
What? The Prussians were at Waterloo, Sam. What do you do? I hope that's you being facetious.
It's me. It is indeed.
But yeah, so I've just been like, I was this room especially like I cleared out all the crap, as much as there's loads of wires and stuff behind there. I sorted out my big computer, hence we're on a new computer today. All my screens are sorted.
Yeah, you were bragging how big the size was, weren't you? You were like, oh, mine's bigger than yours.
Yeah, mine is bigger than yours.
30 terabytes, was it?
I've got about 30 terabytes worth of hard drive space.
Geez.
Probably more, to be honest, but I'm trying to network my drives from my laptop and this computer so I can move things across instead of having, because I've got a load of stuff on that laptop that needs to come across to this. And apart from that, I've been sorting out sort of other bits and pieces. I haven't done any hobby stuff because I've just been.
But you did do in the procrastination episode you were talking about. You wanted to make sure you got the house thing done, and you did manage to strip and paint. I mean, it was a paintbrush, sort of. Yeah. I don't know if it counts as tabletop.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a small table, I guess.
I did, and Boz has already sort of kind of made it all muddy by standing on it and stuff.
No.
But yeah, so I did that, and the house is still, but like. Because there's like lights out here and stuff everywhere and stuff, but it's it's getting there. I've sort of kind of made some headway into it, and yeah. And I went to a doctor about ADHD as well. Though he looked at me like, sort of like, yeah, and I was like, okay, so can I see anybody? Yeah, NHS 3 years waiting list and stuff, and I was just like, all right, okay, so what else? And he went, well, I guess we could send you to like one of these charities. That's maybe about a year. And I was just like, well, if that's the only option, then yes, please. And
you know what? See, now he was playing the Uno reversal card on you, because basically, if you'd said I can't pay attention for that long, he'd be like, "Ha, you do have ADHD."
Yeah.
If you were like willing to be patient, he was like, "Nah, you can't be."
I got the impression.
That's really good.
I got the impression he wasn't overly impressed and stuff. He was just not really. Sort of, he was just like, yeah, I could write this referral letter, but maybe not. And so I was just like, look, I'm having a few issues. I kind of want to get it straightened out, at least sort of, have a sort of kind of some sort of coping mechanism so I can sort of kind of make some better decisions in life and stop being so impulsive buying Kickstarters.
You mean like backing less Kickstarters?
Yeah, it's sort of like stuff like that. It's so yeah, and he was just like, oh, okay. It's all right. So, though I found out potentially my work has health insurance and stuff, so I might be able to claim through that if I go private. So I'll need to look at that and stuff. So yeah, busy. Nice. Just no sort of kind of paintings, but organizing my hobby effectively. So.
And did that make you feel better? Did it take any weight off your mind?
It does. A bit, because it was good, because I cleared out underneath where my table is. There was like loads of stuff. There's nothing there anymore. I took it all out. I threw out what wasn't needed to be thrown out. Put stuff in shelves that needed to be put in shelves. So that felt good. It was good just to have a bit more space for things. There's still loads more to do, and organized, but it's slowly getting there, and it does feel good when it's, you know,
Now,
done.
do you suffer from this? I think a lot of us suffer from this, but when you're tidying something out, you always find stuff and you're like, ooh, I forgot about this. And you get it out and you end up like looking at miniatures or
Oh
sorting
yeah,
stuff, or you get
yeah.
distracted.
What was my thing yesterday? I was trying to sort my computer out, and I was like, oh, I better move these things out of the way because it's in front of where the computer is. So I was like, right, so I moved that one. Oh, my lightsabers, forgot about them. And so I went, oh, I wonder if there's any charge in the lightsabers. And I went, oh, this one doesn't have any charge. So I literally went through all of them, took them all apart, took out all the batteries, went upstairs, started charging the batteries, found one that wasn't charged, started to stick it in, went, that's too small. Oh, I need to put a bit of tinfoil in there so it hits the connection. But when I did it, this thing of smoke came up, and I was like, shit, have I fried it? So I spent ages trying to fix it. And then I procrastinated fixing lightsabers for about an hour and a half. They work, but it wasn't anything to do with my computer and stuff. It was just, I was meant to be networking hard drives and stuff, but I didn't, so.
Is that what that thing is? Like over your left shoulder, there's something like pulsating. That have you just got your lightsaber and you're pretending it's an LED light?
No, they're over here and stuff. They're not the batteries. There's about 12 batteries upstairs. These are expensive lightsabers as well. They were originally going to be giveaways for Geek Pride many years ago, but one, they took so long to come through, and when they did come through, they were of such good quality. I kind of went, yeah, I'm not giving these away. I paid for them.
Now, mate, we did an episode about running a small company as hobby creators, and you made a big deal about the only thing that you kept was that statue up there.
Yeah, you did. The only thing that I was given and kept, I bought the lightsabers myself out of my own personal money.
You bought the lightsabers?
Yes, I was going to give them away, as I do, because I'm a selfless person. All the money that comes from my website comes from me 99.9% of the time. And so pretty much if anything gives away or anything costs, it's coming out of my pockets. So, so I don't usually keep anything. The only thing I've got is that table, which is technically on from Geek and Son. And
I mean, if they watch this and they hear that, they might get reminded. So I would stop saying that. I would just mention how a wonderful table it is.
Yeah. So
it is a nice table, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's heavy though.
It is.
Anytime we have to move it.
Yeah. But yeah. So I was like, I've spent a lot of money on these. I'm not giving them away. I'm keeping them. So I just went, yeah.
Fair.
So yeah.
Fair. For me, I don't think you've seen this yet. I'm not sure what sharing will do. We're #professionals. We will make sure that our OBS and whatnot setup is working next time even better. If I click on this, though, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, if they'll be able to see it, who's going to be able to see it.
If you start moving things around, by the way, Sam, if you screen share, you're going to mess with my positioning on OBS.
Is that what's just happened? Has it just gone messed up?
You're slightly higher than you should be. What is it?
Oh, okay. I'll stop it. But can you see it through Discord?
I can see a watch stream thing.
Oh, okay. I'll send it to you separately then. But you know that I had my weight loss bet, and I didn't win.
Yes.
I lost.
Yes. Well, there was a lot of anger because of the beard.
There was indeed. But one of the forfeits was actually I had to get a tattoo with the other person's name in it.
Okay.
So the tattoo, I'm gonna go real high tech and just send it directly to you through Facebook by taking a photo of my own screen. That's how technically inept I am.
As long as it's
folks, this is from the IT trainer.
I thought you were just going to bend over here and take your ass out and just be like, there you go.
I wish I had that kind of flexibility. If I had that kind of flexibility, I would never leave the house.
It's a sheep. It's a sheep.
It is. It's Sean the sheep. And all my colleagues, because it was a colleague I was doing the competition, was like, it's a big tattoo. We thought you were going to get like a thumbnail one. And I'm like, no. I don't do half measures. I do full measures. So, yes, my first tattoo as part of a bet to to try and win. So there you go. If you ever challenge me to something and we actually put something on the line, I will do anything.
Okay.
In terms of the hobby itself, I have produced a couple of videos since our last chat.
You had one. You had a bit of an issue with one of your videos, didn't you?
Yeah, I ended up losing a whole bunch of the footage. I ended up just putting like clips on it on Instagram because I was meant to be making 3 different bases about speed basing, and then I lost all the footage the day before it was meant to be. And man, I was feeling defeated. I was just like, ugh, because I'd already partially edited it, but it was all my own fault. It wasn't a technical issue. It was was it an ID10T error, an idiot error. What I've been working on is building tons and tons of models. So I'm making a video on how to magnetize in different issues. And the other video I've been doing is, have you ever seen there's an artwork where it's Tau versus Death Guard, and there's this great big Death Guard model. I think it might be Typhus. Like he's got like a Tau by the throat and he's lifting him up. If you give it a quick Google, you'll just do Tau versus Death Guard.
Mm-hmm.
You'll pretty much guaranteed see this picture. And so my next video is about how you can turn any scene into a picture frame for your wall. So I'm making a 3D
I see it.
portrait to go on the wall.
Yeah, it is.
So it's all about playing with perspective and cutting the models in the right way to sort of give that depth.
So it's kind of like old school, the old school sort of kind of Warhammer White Dwarf magazines where they had the sort of flat on dioramas, you know, like the Gene Stealer cults against the
yes,
like,
yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
And they would have like the Gene Stealer crawling down from above.
Can't remember the name
like
of the fella who did those. Yeah.
Yeah. And then other than that, I'm sure there was something else. Oh, yes. And I'm also working on, I'm always looking for cheap ways to carry my models. So you might remember I did a video a little while back where I made one where it was home bargains and it was little paint carry case.
Yep.
And I magnetized it and you could have like a couple of warbands in there.
Yep.
Yep. Well, I have gone for slightly better than that. IKEA white box. Love IKEA. It's a letter tray made of metal with cork on the inside. And so you can slide the trays in and out. And all you need is the magnets on the bottom. £20. And then we have Aldi's finest. It's a cooler bag.
Okay.
And it costs £15.
Okay.
And it's exactly the right dimensions to put one inside the other. So for £35, I've made something that would cost you £120.
Wow.
From like the official creators. And it's even a trolley. So you can like put it on a little extended wheel.
You'll look like an old woman, man. All you need is a little shawl and you'll be one of those old women sort of kind of.
But my models will be safe, protected, and easy to move. So I'm basically always looking for ways that I can save the yourself and, of course, the good viewers money on their transporting. So definitely going to do a little, if not a full video, a little mini snippet on that.
I was wondering why. So I was like, because we're streaming on different things from a laptop. It's got video bitrate 10,000. And it keeps on going. It's like it's showing me like red and stuff, and I was like, but this KPS is like 9,000. But so anyway, sorry.
Those are all words. Whenever someone says 9,000, I immediately want to go over 9,000.
9,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When is it launching on Kickstarter? James said. I don't know if I can buy stuff from IKEA and then put it as my own. However, people do that. It's called like drop shipping, isn't it?
They do it with IKEA... they do it with Amazon, where you sort of like they find what's trending on Amazon, then they buy it from China, like AliExpress or something like that, and then sell it, get it shipped to Amazon, and then to sell it, and then make pure profit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that because one's from Aldi. Although you can buy from their website. So if you're looking for any from the website, I'll put it in the chat, a link to this cooler bag. And then you've got the letter tray. So if you type in metal letter tray from IKEA, do you think that maybe ye old IKEA might be able to do me like what are they called? The sponsored links? What are they called? There's a fancy word for it. I was going to say tariff links.
Huh? What?
You know what they're called? Like, I've got one for Amazon. Affiliate links.
Ah, yes.
Maybe I can convince IKEA. Who is it that owns it? Is it Squidmar that owns IKEA? Something like that, isn't it?
What? Squidmar owns IKEA?
Oh, clearly no. That's a running joke. You don't watch enough. You don't watch enough hobby YouTuber community. That's like a running joke.
Okay.
Because they're from the same country.
All right. Okay.
But I've popped in chat, so if anyone's interested in getting yourself the cooler bag with the trolley or the IKEA one, those are not affiliate links, sadly. I mean, if you want to use my my Amazon affiliate, like, guess how much I made on Amazon affiliate links this month? Have a guess.
£5.43.
That is 100% more than I made.
Okay.
Is that how maths works? I made £2.54. You know what? That's pretty all right with me. I think that's pretty cool.
My dogs made me £2.50. I think this.
Oh my goodness! Because of course they pay much lower rates, don't they? For
2p for every 1,000 views.
That's crazy. On YouTube, at least it's like £1 something.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people kicking off on TikTok about sort of like money and stuff like that. They don't care.
Well, it's quite often people make their fame on TikTok and then they move over to like Instagram and or move to YouTube, where the money's just that little bit better.
On a random talk about YouTube and stuff, I was watching a YouTube video. What's the name of the painter? Begins with an N.
Ninjon?
Is it Ninja? John. Something like.
Well, finish your sentence and we'll find out.
It's basically. What's his name? He's an American painter at the Horus Heresy
look
weekend.
like?
He was at the Horus Heresy weekend and he got kicked out of the Horus Heresy weekend.
Maniac.
Yeah, that's it. Maniac.
Yeah, Ninjon and Maniac, they both do the podcast together, the Trapped Under Plastic podcast.
Yeah.
Here we are advertising a rival.
Right, yeah, because they're really bothered about us,
yeah,
Sam.
What do you think about that? So basically, he had his camera and he had his phone and he uploaded footage from his phone that he didn't mean to do. Well, he did, but he thought it was of stuff that was already shown.
Yeah, I saw his video and stuff, and it seemed genuine enough. I think Games Workshop being overly heavy-handed, maybe, but I guess it's one of those things, isn't it? And stuff. Even if it's a mistake, you were warned, and that's your responsibility, not to sort of kind of do shit like that, because all it takes is for the rest of them to make that mistake, and. It was a bit harsh for them to literally go leave the Weekender and stuff like that, but
especially when they'd paid for the hotels and flown him over,
and they didn't show his Lionel Johnson, and
that was weird.
That did seem slightly iffy.
Especially he'd paid over 1,500 to get the rest of the models painted for them.
I felt bad for the guy. Like I don't know. Could he might have chanced his arm? Maybe I don't know the guy well enough. But from listening to him, he did seem very much like it was a mistake. And to be honest, it's understandable, because I would probably being like completely, wow, that looks cool, take a photograph of it and then sort of like just post it without thinking. So,
because that's what he was saying, he was trying to use his camera for everything, because then you wouldn't make that mistake if you were using your camera. Where's the phone? Yeah,
and I think they went a bit too OTT with it, to be honest. I think they, kicking them out altogether and just not using a thing. I'm assuming they have legal things that's what would happen, but
It was interesting when he was talking about the fact that his video about being kicked out was being vetted. Now, he's probably doing that not because they're forcing him to do it, but because he's wanting to show goodwill and there's no hard feelings. But I agree with his sentiment. It seems strange when a company is vetting your stuff after they said, you know what, we want nothing to do with you.
I was starting to think about that when it was happening. It was like, I don't know. It's it's like they're a big company, and if a lot of your sort of kind of effectively your revenue comes from painting their figures and stuff like that, you have to keep on their side slightly. But you know, it was pretty heavy-handed for them and stuff. Like, I don't know exactly what happened and stuff like that, so that you're only sort of guessing at this moment in time. But kicking, paying for a guy to come from America to paint something, and then because he's made a mistake, kind of going, right, get out, leave. We're not using any of your stuff. Is pretty heavy-handed in my opinion. So.
I'd rather excitedly have gone ahead and just fired out a poll. How exciting, our first poll. Did Games Workshop overreact when pulling Miniac and not showing all of his stuff? So you can go and vote for that in the chat. Oh, we've got a couple of yeses flying in. Interesting. I kind of want to vote in it myself, but I'm not sure how. But yeah, it just seemed a little bit strange. And especially when, we've discussed this before, but there's no way their photos, the photos that are leaked online, which are so grainy, there's no way that those aren't sometimes leaked on purpose.
Oh yeah, big time. There's no way. Nobody in modern times with a modern camera can make photographs that grainy without them being intentionally made that grainy and stuff. So there's somebody who's doing it on purpose, or they're doing it sort of just to sort of kind of show interest. So yeah, I think if it's a genuine mistake, I don't know. With big companies, I guess it's one of those things. If one person does it, then other people do it, and there's precedent set, so they have to have a certain sort of line that you're not allowed to cross. So in that area, I guess I understand, but it was pretty heavy-handed. Again, we don't know what happened. But
I think it was really cool that they even put on an event like that. I don't remember the last time they sort of did it. I was chatting to you at the time on the podcast going, oh, maybe I should have gone, but the tickets were expensive and they were like hen's teeth to get.
Yeah. Hashtag children as well, Sam, Do I feed my child, or do I go to the Horus Heresy Weekender?
I know.
There was definitely a lot of thought going on there.
Yeah, you're being sarcastic, I'm being serious. Anyway, I think that is enough of the chit chat, unless anyone in the chat has anything that they want to fire in. Today's topic, as I popped in the chat, is we're going to talk about topics as sources of inspiration that really get our hobby juices going, or something that we'd like to actually see exist in the hobby itself. And judging by the sheer wealth of memorabilia behind you, I think we can take a couple of guesses at stuff that gets Matt going. But I mean, a lot of the stuff you've got is actually historical stuff. You've mentioned so many Games Workshop, not Games Workshop games, World War games. I don't know if people fully know how many of those games behind you in that darkness are sort of World War. Do you watch a lot of World War movies and TV series?
Grew up sort of my father was massively into like most of the men in my family and stuff are big history buffs and things, so we grew up on war films and cowboy films, so literally all the old school war films and all the old school cowboy films and stuff we used to watch, though bar sort of like the oh my god, the main like really super famous cowboy.
John Wayne?
John Wayne, yeah. John Wayne. Oh, I can't believe I didn't remember that.
You could have been meaning Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood, yeah. So like Hang 'em High and A Few Dollars More and stuff like that. And Rooster Cogburn for oh my god, his name's gone again. John Wayne. Yeah, so the cowboy stuff, but I was never really into cowboy stuff historically. The Wild West was just sort of this sort of fantasy land that I watched films on, but World War II was always a big thing, partially because my grandfather was in the RAF and was in Burma, so he had loads of war stories and stuff like that, so I was like super into it. So like World War II stuff was like a massive thing, so we'd watch all the films. My dad and my uncle used to play loads of historical war games together. I used to play computer games, my dad's, where we'd sort of hot seat, so you'd have these hex-based war games where he'd do his moves, then he'd press go, and then I do my moves, and we take turns. And I remember literally just like sitting there running into the front room watching a bit of TV with my mum. My dad would go off, take his moves, then come in and do the same thing, and then I'd run back and stuff. And that was good fun. So that's sort of
I think
like
there was one for 40k that was something like that. I think we chatted about it before. It was called Flames of War or Arts of Flame or something like that. And you had the Eldar, you had the Tyranids, you had the Space Marines, and it was hex based and turn based.
Well, they've got there's like Gladius, which is that. You've also got there's been loads of hex based 40k ones out over the years. Some more recent ones. But yeah, just
Speaking of, just to go on a very quick tangent, Space Marine 2, are you excited?
yes and no. My problem with it is going to be it my problem with the Space Marine, it was a good game, but in my mind, Space Marines, should be in like in my mind, it's like loads of Space Marines, loads of big fighting and war going on and stuff like that. When you get games when there's like 3 or 4 of them running around, it's it's sort of kind of slightly anticlimactic. So in the last Space Marine, just I like the game and the storyline to it. You sort of maybe saw like what 3 or 4 Space Marines, and I was just like, come on, man. And in this one, I guarantee you it's going to be like Aliens Fireteam Elite, or like one of those games where you're literally horde games. So it's going to literally be 3 Marines dealing with hordes of Tyranids, just like the new Aliens game that came out. Which
do you read a lot of the books though, or? And I don't mean the Horus Heresy books, which are literally about
Space I understand.
Marines.
Yeah, I do. There's
because
a lot
in a lot of the books and like that, it's like little. Not, I was going to say kill teams there, but that is a thing.
Yeah.
However, it's normally small squads.
It is, and I understand. It's not. It's just scale for me as always. It's just like they have this big trench warfare thing going on, and there's like 2 Marines around, and you're like, come on, guys. Why?
But the game was out a long time ago. Part of that's got to be limitations of the actual material.
Yeah, and I'm sure and this I know what this new game's going to be like. It is going to be one of these if you've played Aliens Fireteam Elite, which is a great game, especially when you got like me and my brother went through it and stuff, and it can be quite intense and stuff when you got the aliens running around and stuff. But it gets a bit samey because what you do is lots of aliens come, you get to a checkpoint, you get rushed by a loads more, you get some big guys who come in, you got to deal with them, and then you sort of kind of move on, and it's very similar throughout. It's like the new 40k game Dark Tide is going to be similar to that, because the same with Vermintide. They were literally horde games where you had a bunch of guys and then hordes of guys would come, and it's cool having so many sort of enemies flying around you and stuff, but it can get a bit samey. So I'll be interested if they have multiplayer in it or not, like the original one.
I don't know if I've seen anything like that, but that would be really satisfying.
Did you not play the multiplayer in the first one?
I don't think so. Are you talking like local play, or are you meaning like online?
Oh yeah, you could play online, and it was basically you could all be Space Marines, and you just sort of and you shot each other. Like there's a lot. It's kind of like what Eternal Crusade, that short-lived game that came out. But yeah, it was just sort of you ran around as a Space Marine shooting at each other, and it was like a deathmatch type thing.
2011, so I would have been right in the middle of my booze and cruising at university.
Yeah, maybe Space Marine was the first ever review Geek Pride did.
No.
Yep, first ever review.
Shut the front door.
Yep.
And that article is up with all the original comments to this day?
Because the website was changed, the article's still there, I think, but I don't think any of the comments and stuff. But that's the first ever article I wrote for Geek Pride, was a Space Marine review.
I always imagine that if you were going to buy like cosplay, I could just see like a full size Space Marine outfit sitting in that room.
Yeah, that's like when I was a kid, I always wanted to have Space Marine armor. Ever since watching the Space Crusade advert on TV and seeing these guys in
the
armor
grim
and
dark
coming
future.
through, I was like, holy shit, I want armor like that. And I can remember vividly just kind of going, I want that. You know, like Noel's House Party and stuff where you can go on those things and they sort of like, they'll do stuff for this. Jim will fix it, though. We're not sort of talking obviously about that anymore. I'm kind of glad I never got on that. But yeah, sort of things like that where you're just like, I just want to have Space Marine armor and stuff, and that would be awesome. So yeah.
How much would you willing to pay? Well, how much are we talking?
I think
you've spent a lot of stuff.
I could make it. I could potentially make it. My only issue with Space Marine armor, when you make it, and with all due respect to everybody who cosplays and stuff, because it's very hard to do, is the raptor arms. You get the sort of Tyrannosaurus. So basically, this scale, because everything's so oversized, like the pauldrons and obviously the stilts that you're on, everything's oversized. And your arms can only get to a certain level. You look like you got really short arms compared to the rest of the body. Some people have dealt with that by adding in sort of like, you get these sort of like gripper things that you could sort of kind of make into hands and stuff like that. It just means you can't grip things properly. You can only sort of kind of use these sort of kind of automated things, but they look a bit better. Some of the other sort of kind of fiberglass Space Marine things I've seen, they literally just have like a fake hand with a bolter attached to it, and you've got like a grip like you would have in a shield or something within that hand, so they go over it, so it looks like it's in proportion. So getting Space Marines, the problem you have is if you get the proportions right, but you make them too small, then it doesn't look realistic because they're not superhuman and big. So you get some really good cosplayers who do Space Marines, but they're shrunk down, so they look like the same size.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah, they look really good. It's just like they look smaller, so they're not as imposing as some of the big sort of power armored stuff.
The one that always blows my mind is when you start looking up stuff about like the Russian community, because you see the stuff they do for cosplay and it blows my mind, and I'm like, I didn't realize there was such a cult following.
They have a big sort of well, they
nothing else to do during the winter.
They had a big sort of like, they have a big LARP sort of Warhammer Fantasy LARP thing where they all go like balls deep on some of the costumes. Like they're, you know, you've got, you know, steam the tanks and stuff and everything from the Empire, and you know, full on sort of kind of like they just go balls deep on that, and it's really impressive. But yeah, so
it's one of those things. Is they're one of the countries that, if you were to ask about real commissars, they're one of the ones that had actual political officers. So if you're going to get tips from someone, they're the ones to go to.
Yeah, well, that's it. But yeah, so Space Marine armor is like Space Crusade, which is over there. Was the first sort of kind of like, oh my god, I definitely want that, and I would love to have it. And at one point in time, I was debating making it, but it was the idea of having, you know, the proportions being out of proportion and it looking ridiculous. Like having done cosplay, having sort of made EVA foam cosplays and stuff. Like I did an Imperial stormtrooper from Crimson Empire, which wasn't too bad, and I did sort of some green arrow armor, all made with EVA foam and stuff, and looked pretty good. But even that was slightly not out of proportion. But there's some of it was just like I could have, you know, I felt like I could have done better.
You're at what, 6'3"?
I'm 6'3".
So putting on the stilts, how far off would you be?
Well, technically,
off of one of the Space Marines.
Space Marines are anywhere between sort of 7.5 and 8 foot tall. So you know. 7 foot tall, I think, is like your smallest type of Space Marine. So I could sort of, you know, get slightly bigger, smaller stilts and stuff. That's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about it. I was just like, so I would only need slightly bigger platform to be sort of kind of up to 7 foot, and I'd just need something slightly longer for my arms and stuff. There's a guy. He's an Australian fella, and he's got a Terminator, Dark Angels, the Deathwing Terminator. He's got a Deathwing Terminator cosplay, and it's insane because it's proportioned. and it's super, and it's like it's mad. Like when he takes the helmet off, you can see
Robotic and
how small his head is compared to the rest of the whole thing and stuff. But yeah, it's just it's insane. Like, but
did you ever see that one where it was a dreadnought and
yeah,
someone was making like a to scale dreadnought?
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
floated around the internet, but I think did he give up
I know.
or
I think it,
it
it
has been
wouldn't.
up
I
for a
don't
long
think it
time.
moved. I don't think it moved. It was literally something he built in his garden.
Yeah.
And they brought the conventions and stuff. But yeah, he made that. I saw the sort of how to of it. So yeah, that's good. So like, it's just scale for me. It just, and for me, it was just the whole having the whole sort of small arms thing and walking around. And as much as people are forgiving, there's a lot of people who are just like, that's silly and stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't want this sort of be
No,
mocked. So
those people are just jealous. But speaking of LARPing and cosplaying, one of the ultimate fantasies that you can actually, or could, I should say, live out was actually being a Witcher and going to the Witcher School of Training in Poland. I don't know if it was ever like official. I don't think it was licensed from, I've forgotten his name, Spikowski, Sperowicz. Nope, totally butchered that name. But I don't think it was licensed, and that's the thing, and it's been closed down. I don't know if CD Projekt Red, I don't know if you've read anything about this,
no.
but yeah, the actual Witcher school has closed down, unfortunately. So your
Boo,
days are done.
boo,
You say boo, you don't even know what it was.
boo.
You're sad that other people's happiness is gone.
Yes,
I
that's
couldn't
it.
believe it survived through
That's it.
COVID. What did they do? Online Witcher training?
Yeah, well, you know how to make
Like,
potions.
the monsters are through the webcam.
Yeah.
So like, what? There's just a guy in cosplay going, "I am a monster. What do you do?" I pull out my Witcher silver blade. Not gonna lie, that sounds like it would still work. But coming back round, so we're chatting about things that really get the old juices flowing, and I think just having a sort of an active community like that, someone who gets so passionate about the hobby that they want to cosplay is definitely something that makes you excited. I would love to go to one of those events where everyone's already dressed up, and when I see people dressed up. But
Yeah,
that's not really what I meant. I was meaning like more movies and stuff. And you were saying that you used to watch some World War, but that's not actually what gets you sort of going with it. It's more of a family history with it.
yeah. Well, it's sort of like getting into Napoleonics was simply because I loved Sharp growing up. Like Sharp was like one of my favorite TV series growing up, and I used to read all the books as well. So I read all the books. I started watching the series one day and went, "Oh my god, this is cool! That guy's awesome!" Sean being as Sharp. I was like, "That's quality." And then I started reading all the books, and then I was just like, "I'm loving this." And then I just got into the whole sort of like, Napoleonic era. I was just like, I love World War II, but Napoleonics was just sort of like for some reason my thing. And so my dad started getting me, would buy me sort of Napoleonics and stuff. And I've got boxes of them upstairs actually. But yeah, so that's what got me into that sort of. So World War II and Napoleonics are sort of kind of my two sort of eras that I enjoy the most. Um,
There's
and
always that joke, isn't there, that when you hit a certain age, suddenly historic becomes way more attractive.
yeah,
Suddenly you want to play bolt action, you want to play. I mean, I've always been a fan of the Roman sort of stuff. If you were to look at my sort of YouTube subscription list, you'll find all the major ones, Kings and
yeah.
Generals. Brain
History
is just
Marsh,
blanked on them.
History Marsh. That's the other one.
There's one that we both really enjoy in Vitica.
Yeah,
That's really good.
like to get, and then you've
Imperial
got
Romana.
oversimplified, which is really good too.
That's not Roman. Get out of here.
But they do, yeah, but they do sort of like, and neither is like Invicta and Kings and Generals. They do modern stuff. They do a bit of everything.
The funny thing about oversimplified is if you go and hover over our videos, you know how it gives you like a flash, like a clip of something. The video where we talked about oversimplified, the summary picture is if you hover over the top, oversimplified. It's like a clip from there.
So good, so good,
Oh my goodness.
so good.
I like to think of it as free advertising rather than we're stealing from them. But do you find that? Do you tend to watch stuff when you're hobbying to sort of get you going?
I listen to stuff more than I watch it because I find if I do watch things in the background sometimes if I'm not too bothered about it, if I'm making models and stuff like that. Problem is if I watch something and I'm doing a hobby I either miss half of what's going on, or I stop doing what I'm doing and just sort of kind of zone into what's going on, and neither thing gets done properly. So I generally have audiobooks on, so I'm listening to Joe Abercrombie's not the first Law series, it's not the second trilogy, it's the his last trilogy. I'm on the last book and stuff, so I've got that going on in the background. So I usually put an audiobook on and sort of listen to that when I'm doing stuff, and it keeps me sort of distracted, because if my brain's kind of not distracted, it starts going doot 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 doot. So yeah, audiobooks are really good for me to sort of kind of keep the creative juices flowing, because it distracts me from myself effectively, because I'm focusing on something, and that means I can do something else basically.
The thing is, it's almost like when you're going to sleep and you listen to like rain falling or white noise, basically to block out all the other intrusive thoughts. Like, oh, I should really be doing the washing instead of painting a miniature or building something.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, I absolutely get into anything. It doesn't really matter what it is. If you get me going on something, I want to read every piece of information about it. I will sleuth the internet, spending hours reading every 40k lexicon page possible to find. I want to listen to all of it. So what I've got into recently is I really like series. For me, it's got to be a book series. It's got to be a TV series. It's got to be something long. And I'm re-listening to the Gaunt's Ghost series.
Yeah.
And it's just got me right back into it. So I actually got, for an anniversary or birthday, that was it. I got the Gaunt's Ghost models, and I'm just kicking myself because I used to own the old metal ones, and I'm going, why did I sell them? Big regret.
I can't remember what were they called. I used to have a box. I think were they called the last chancers. Were they called the Last Chancers?
Schaefer's Last Chancers.
Yeah, I had those. I think I've got the metal figures somewhere around still. But yeah,
really?
I remember they're somewhere around. But yeah, I had those.
Because you had Schaefer, you had the Major, you had Animal, you had Grease Monkey, you had
the Sniper. What was the name of the Sniper?
I don't know. It was a cool model though.
Yeah.
And then you had the lady with the bolt gun, who's all tattooed up. You had Hero, who is the disgraced commissar.
Yeah.
Is that all of them?
Can't remember, but I remember.
Oh, you had like the psycho one, Brains. Brains was the one that had like the big bald head and all the cables in his back, and he was the hacker.
Oh right, yeah. And you had the sort of kind of like the sort of Native American guy, and he had like a
yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so I got that. I remember, so I was doing work because the guy, I can't remember his name, but I just, because back in the day, one of my mates used to run the games workshop in Spurn or something. I can't remember. It was like really or Hollywood. I can't even remember where it was. But he needed the stock take done, and he basically said if we helped him out, that he'd we couldn't pay us, but he'd sort of help us out. And basically, what he did is we helped him with the stock take, and at the end of the night, he went, "Well, you see,
miscounted the stock take."
Well, it was pretty much they have this thing, and obviously, I don't think he works there anymore, so it doesn't really matter. But he had this thing that's like, if things are broken, we can't sell them. If the box is dented and stuff, we can't sell them. Oops! And he put his hand sort of kind of through this sort of like a Bal Predator box and went, "Oh, there you go." And oh my God, this Last Chancellor's box has got a rip in it. Here you go. And I was like, "Oh, bro, okay." So basically, that's how he got away with it. And we walked out having done a day's work for some metal crap.
I mean, if you do have them, I will take those off your hands, because I had them as well. And again,
they'll be at my mum's house somewhere,
phase.
I think. If anything, yeah. But yeah, they were. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's definitely what I tend to do. But is there any particular audiobook series that you would recommend to folks to give a listen that would help them focus on the hobby and get going?
I'm listening to. I gotta make sure. So there's basically there's loads actually. My boss is really good at sort of getting me into sort of the audiobooks and stuff. But
is your boss a secret nerd?
He is a secret. He refuses to accept that he is one. He's very much like, I'm not a nerd. He's like, you are. Like, you like comic books and fantasy things and stuff. Oh no, I'm not a geek. And he's like, you are.
There's one of those funny things, isn't it? Though, when you spend enough money on something, it's no longer geek; it's a collector.
Yeah.
First edition Batman.
So it is, if I can find it, library. what is the name of the trilogy? Oh crap! It is called. Right. So Joe Abercrombie, he's got a series called the First Law trilogy, which is the first. There's the first trilogy. The next trilogy is called. Oh, I can't read it. What's it's called? But yeah, basically there's 9 books. 3 are the first trilogy, 3 are sort of technically standalone books. One called Red Country, one called The Heroes, one called something else which I can't remember. And then there's the last trilogy which I'm currently on. And they all kind of interact with each other. They've got the first 3 have the same sort of characters in them. The second 3 have periphery characters that are in the first trilogy, but sort of like, every now and again, sort of the odd sort of kind of name comes into it. And the last trilogy is basically set in the industrial. So this is like I would say high fantasy because magic's in it, but it's not really overly prevalent. It's sort of kind of semi-prevalent. And the last trilogy, it's basically as if the Industrial Revolution has happened. So everything, it's about sort of gunpowder and industry and things like that. So it's basically about the main people's kids and stuff like that. But there are some of the main people in it. And it's really good. It's so good. The problem I get with it is so engrossing, and some of the battles he describes are so well done that you find yourself just sitting there listening to it instead of actually doing what you're doing. I know you should just be listening to it because it's so good, but it's hard to it can distract you because it is really good. But yeah, there's 9 books. Joe Abercrombie. The first trilogy is called the First Law trilogy, and it's not happy going stuff. It's very much, this is the hero, and this guy is this, and there's a lot of sort of shit that happens. It's not as brutal as Game of Thrones sometimes, but it's got a load of curveballs, and it's got a lot of stuff.
Did you not find that Game of Thrones almost made you just numb to character death? It made you not bother getting attacked, apart from Tyrion. Like, if anything had happened to Tyrion, that was it. I was done. I was finding that man and just burning it all down.
Yeah, well, it's just like, it's for me now, it's like books, I feel like there has to be a twist. As much now and again, I do like a sort of generic hero story. Like there's another set of books called X Heroes series by it's not Ernest Cline's, it's somebody Cline's. I will find out what his name is right now because it's going to annoy me.
I've just started the I've always wanted to get the Gortrick and Felix books. Because I love the models, I love reading them, but I never got around to it. So I've just started that. My favorite thing is when you get a audiobook narrator, that you've had in a different series, and you're like, oh my goodness! Because
the thing is, I have particularly sort of favorite sort of narrators when I do audiobooks, and it's like Jonathan Keeble has to do 40k irrespective.
Jonathan Keeble is the one that narrates the Gortrick and Felix books, but he's also done the voice in a series I absolutely love called Under the Eagle, which is again Roman, so it's like real things that happen, but 2 fake characters, one Centurion, one not. Did you ever read Under the Eagles?
Yeah, I've heard about it. But Jonathan Keeble is like, when I listen to some of the older 40k stuff and it's not Jonathan Keeble, I'm just like, this isn't Jonathan Keeble. What is this? So it has to be Jonathan Keeble. And the guy who does the narration for the Joe Abercrombie stuff. Something Pacey, I think his second name is, but he's really good. Then there's also basically
have you heard of Toby Longworth?
But basically,
he does the Gaunt's Go stuff.
Yeah, so there's basically certain guys who I like the audio for, and I kind of expect that sort of from them. It's like, so at like each series I've listened to, if they start messing around with the
rage
with the actors and stuff, I'm like, what is this? And if it's bad, then I don't like it. So there's a guy called Gareth Powell who's sort of written, they're making a series out of it, a TV series out and stuff, but his books, sci-fi books, I I had him on the Geek Pride cast, and we were talking to him. I was like, "This sounds awesome," so I'm gonna download the audiobooks, and I did, and I just couldn't get into them because the narration was sort of like generic iPhone American, and it was just so like start stop and boring, and it just made me not want to get into it. And I wasn't sure if it was intentionally like that, sort of because it was meant to be futuristic or whatever, but whatever it was really put me off. So I was just like, I'm just going to have to actually buy the books because this is killing it for me. And I'm sure, I've no doubt they're amazing books. It's just that first book I started listening to, I just couldn't deal with the audio. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do that. There was another series that started off like that, but I was kind of glad I persevered with. It's called The Red. So it's another sort of, it's on its sixth book at the minute, so it's the Red Rising.
I mean, that's getting up there. That's almost an acceptable level of books to listen to.
Yeah, so it's Red Rising, and it's by, oh god, I'm with names. What is it? It is.
You can tell when you really love an author or really love a narrator because you actually remember their name.
Yeah, but the things
I probably know more.
I love, like, don't get me wrong, I love these books. Pierce Brown, the guy's called Pierce Brown. I forget his name all the time, but he's the Red Rising series. And it's on its sixth book. It's like 2 sets of trilogies, and it's sort of kind of, you can tell he's got some of his influence from modern, like sort of the 40k universe, but also sort of like from what's it called, what's the thing where they fight each other, Hunger Games and things like that. And it sort of starts off, it's very Hunger Games-ish, and the main character is a Martian, so they're all classed, so they've got colors. So the reds are like the working class, and the golds are the sort of kind of higher sort of caste, and they are all really sort of kind of posh and stuff like that. So basically, they've got this like proper broad Irish accent. So a guy doing narration in this broad Irish accent, and obviously you're not used to that when you're listening to sort of kind of audiobooks. So when you hear this really broad sort of like, sort of kind of Southern Irish accent, you're just like, that's weird. And at the start, I was just like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I kind of like when they sort of kind of put on. But the thing is, he basically goes from being this sort of kind of working class Martian to basically infiltrating the gold, and then his accent changes to this sort of slightly more well-spoken things. So it's like his progression from sort of like this sort of bottom rung to the higher tier where he's infiltrating them and stuff, and it's about his sort of progress through this sort of thing to becoming sort of like a leading general in the rebellion and stuff. And it's so good. I was so glad that I carried on with it, and the narration in that is great, though there is a few changes in some of the character perspectives, and that's slightly annoying because you kind of are used to the way certain people sort of narrate a person, and then suddenly
is that multiple different people doing multiple different voices? A lot of the ones I listen to, it's one person doing the voice for all, including women's voices. You're like, this sounds like a woman's voice. He does
the same voices for all the fellas, but if there's a woman, and I'm not sure if it's just in the second trilogy where he does it. I think he does all the voices in the first one, but in the second trilogy, there's numerous voices. And there's a woman who's also a Martian, and she's called Lyria, and she's also very Irish, and she says, it's Lyria, and she always sounds like she's going to cry. And it's just like, it's so annoying, but you kind of get used to it eventually. You're just like, all right, that's her character and stuff. It's just odd because you're not used to that sort of kind of like narration and stuff, and I think it's good in that way because you don't get that. But in the sort of the fourth, fifth, and hopefully the sixth book, the perspectives have got different people doing the narration for different types of characters and stuff, and it works pretty well. And that's a really good series.
I approve of that. I like just one voice, and I like it when they put on dumb voices for different characters. I always wonder though, how do they remember? How do you remember your voice? Do you think they practice it and they're like, this character?
I am so bad when it comes to our like Dungeons and Dragons. Like, so we got D&D tomorrow, so we do it on Thursday nights, and I do all the voices. But the thing is, one week, one guy will be a prospecting American, and then the next week the same guy is a Yorkshireman, and it's just like, because I completely
You get
forget.
called out on it.
Yeah, it's like,
Your
well,
players
I think
call
it's
you out.
because I know I'm just like, there's only specific characters. Like there's one called Jonto, who's basically a Northern Irish thief, effectively. So I remember him because I'm Irish, and it's just sort of like, you know, so
Yeah.
he has an accent. There's one called Cleveland, who I know is sort of a West Country sort of thing, and you know the dwarfs are all Scottish because that's what dwarfs are. They're always Scottish.
Obviously,
It's always Scottish.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it. So you know what? Your next book, you have to describe the series or the TV series, but you have to do it fully with a Scottish accent. So I'll go first to make sure that I insult you first. So one of the ones that I would recommend is Rhaeadra Chronicles. The Rhaeadra Chronicles are one of your classic sort of low fantasy. What you've got is your big, strong, strapping lad who's really good with a sword, and he's got a little bit of history about him, and he's trained in the dark arts of whatever. And then you have the other one. He's a quick-spoken, sneaky little thief, and it's a really good series called the Rhaeadra Chronicles by Michael J. Sullivan. And there's 3 of the main books, but there's several of the precursor books, shall we say, because his wife actually loves the character.
What the fuck?
Think? No.
You sort of kind of were all over. Like your accent was sort of. It started off sort of kind of like sort of southern towards sort of kind of like, you know, Kerry way. That moved up to Dublin, then it went up north a bit, and then it sort of kind of moved all over of Ireland. You know. Sort of...
I'm showing me range. What are you trying to say?
You should have just gone biggity biggity bong. So it is.
No, for me there was a movie, and I think it's something to do with Leprechaun. There was a little girl who really wanted to build her go-kart, and somehow she finds a 4-leaf clover, and the leprechaun comes to help her. But there's this little old gardener guy, and he goes, "Oh, that cheeky little bugger's been in and got all me roses." And that's always been like, you know, you have a trigger, like a primer. If you're trying to do an accent, you think of that thing. And for me, it's always that. "Oh, that cheeky little bugger's got in and all me roses. That bastards."
They're
Maybe
always
that's where
trying
I've gone
to
wrong.
steal
Maybe
me
my
lucky
primer is
charms.
wrong.
It's not a stick, it's a fucking shillelagh.
So go on then. What's a TV series? Let's do a TV series this time, because I think we could talk about audiobooks forever. But what's a TV series that gets the juices flowing for you, that helps you, not distract you, but helps you get your hobbying done?
Oh god, TV series that sort of helps me. What I'm watching it, or something that sort of inspires me to.
Yeah, so it's something that makes you the juices flow, and it makes you go, oh, I really want to go in, I don't know, paint, World War II stuff, or I really want to play a World War II game or something like that. So for example, listening to Gaunt's Ghost makes me really want to buy Gaunt's Ghost, hence why I now own them, but it also makes me want to collect an Imperial Guard army.
Well, there, Sam. Let me tell you this. My favourite series to watch when I'm doing... Do you like my Scottish accent? Does it sound...
That bit was pretty good, where you said Scottish accent. That was pretty good.
Well, a Scottish accent. Okay, so... I have to say, like, Kings and Generals and History March and stuff like that kind of gets me in that sort of place to sort of do historical wargaming and stuff quite a lot. I sit there and will watch that quite religiously. I find myself just watching YouTube quite a lot at the minute. Just sort of out of everything, I spend watching that or Age of Empires videos, because there's a guy called Aussie Drongo who does sort of Age of Empires videos, and I find him quite amusing. What other stuff? Nothing really inspires me to do 40k stuff at the minute. Because I think
you don't watch any battle reports or anything like that?
I used to, but it's only when I was doing tournaments and stuff. But because I'm slightly burnt out with it at the minute, even with the new points changes, and the new sort of kind of the nerfs to stuff, it's like Space Wolves really didn't get much. Like Space Marines as a whole got some nice, sort of new sniper. The Eliminators are a lot better now than they used to be and things like that. But for me, who like running Thunderbolts and Wolfen, it's just like, are they? I'm not really sure. So it's nothing that's really inspiring me. Even like listening to the Horus Heresy stuff, it's like I was tempted to buy the Horus Heresy box set,
Do it,
and then
do it now.
like I've got loads of Heresy stuff upstairs, but they're obviously going to be slightly smaller scale now because they've increased the scale of the beakies and stuff. But I saw the box and I went, obviously it's good value for money, but I was just like, the idea of having that much grey plastic again, which I'm probably not going to use or make for a while, made me feel slightly nauseous. So I've actually stopped myself. Horus, because it's effectively 7th edition rules with reactions. So I watched a video on how it's played, and it did bring back a lot of sort of kind of memories of me playing 7th edition and stuff. But they have that additional thing of being able to move in the shooting phase, or you shoot back on the shooting phase depending on your reactions and stuff, which I thought is quite a cool mechanic. And I like that tanks and stuff have facings, and planes and stuff have facings and stuff like that.
And blast templates are back.
Blast templates and stuff like that. So I kind of like that.
Terrible for competitive play.
Yeah, it's just but yeah, the idea of having like I sold a load of my Space Wolf stuff. I sold all the tanks I had. I sold a load of drop pods. I sold like a load of stuff. I was just like, I'm never going to use this. Though annoyingly, all the tanks and stuff got buffs in the recent updates and stuff, so they went down in price.
But if you wouldn't run them, there's no point. Although they probably put their value up.
Yeah, well, it's just like, so yeah, well, that's it. Like all like rhinos, and you've got lots of things now which are toughness 8, so they it makes them better, sort of like a bit more sturdy and less likely to get shot to shit. But yeah, 40k is sort of in a sort of weird place with me at the minute and stuff. I don't know. I might sort of get out of my funk at some point in time, but it's just sort of kind of not really overly inspiring me and stuff at this moment in time. So yeah,
one TV series that always makes me sort of want to watch stuff is Judge Dredd. That's so Necromunda.
Yeah.
Killjoys. Have you ever watched Killjoys?
No, I don't think
it's about a group of like bounty hunters. So Killjoys are like bounty hunters. There's a vaguely evil corporation that have taken over, basically like the Imperium in Star Wars, and that makes you hunt down people for their bounties. That's very Necromunda. Star Wars, I love the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars, the animated series, is just so good.
I couldn't get into it, to be honest. I watched the first season and I was just like, yeah, it wasn't really doing much for me and stuff. And people said, you have to sort of give it a bit of time, but I love Star Wars, but the cartoon series wasn't really doing much for me, though apparently it gets a lot better as it sort of kind of goes along. I've seen like some of the clips, obviously Obi-Wan versus...
Oh, the budget just ramps up. Like it just goes absolutely mental.
Yeah, so I just watched
maybe you should give it another go.
I will, like I'll stick it on at some point in time.
Because that'll get you wanting to play Star Wars Legion.
I do want to play some Armada again. I do want to play Armada again. That was a really good game.
Well, I'm getting told off. Star Wars doesn't have an Imperium. What's it called? Just Empire?
Empire, yeah.
Oh, I do apologize. I do apologize, James.
But yeah,
Do you know what? Anything to do with like legends in Star Wars? It's called Legends, isn't it, James? That I just when you're reading about the rule of 2 and how there used to be armies of Sith and your stuff like this.
I like
the good Empire.
I like the sort of kind of older canon and stuff. There was basically
the older canon, or do you mean Legends? Because it's now called Legends, the stuff that used to be canon.
All right,
Mickey Mouse came in and he wrecked it up.
All right, the Legends and stuff. So basically, you had before they brought in the recent trilogy and stuff, their most recent trilogy, they had some books and was called the Song Vong. Let me just see if I get the pronunciation of this.
As soon as you say Vaughn, I just think Von Castorines.
They're called Star Wars. 1 minute. Wars. Yeah, the Yuzan Vong war. So basically, you had, after the defeat of the Empire, you had this massive invasion by the Yuzan Vong, who are basically force sensitive religious zealot creatures, and they have this massive civil war, and they basically do more damage than the Empire ever could have done. Billions of people are killed, including Chewbacca and Han Solo and stuff like that. So like they kill a load of people, sort of like die in this sort of thing, and it's really sort of like, and the whole thing about it with the sort of angle that they did was that the Empire was bad, but the reason the Death Star existed was to stop the Yuzong Vong from invading. So it had this sort of kind of grayer area. It's like, okay, they were the Empire and they were oppressive, but they had these big super weapons and stuff to stop what happened next. And because the Republic won, it happened, and they basically caused this massive, huge galactic war with this sort of force-sensitive set of beings, and caused a lot more death than happened in the sort of galactic civil war and stuff. And it was that was a really good angle and stuff. Like, so Chewbacca gets killed in it, Han Solo gets killed in it. It's just sort of a lot of sort of cool, crazy stuff, but it's not canon
This
anymore.
is something that actually I don't think I've ever read enough of, sort of around it. Obviously, the Sith bits are bad, but the Empire that we know of as the Empire, how bad were they? Obviously, they slaughtered the Jedi, yes, but did they not bring peace to the Outer Rims?
I think you got to look at it this way. It's very much one man sort of peacekeepers, another man sort of terrorist and stuff sort of thing, and there's some good fan fiction on it, or at least some good there's some good sort of videos I've seen. There's one on YouTube, and it's basically about a group of stormtroopers, and it's following them fighting for the Empire, and about how they are fighting for the Empire because the rebellion, a bomb they set off killed their some of their family, and so they joined the Empire to fight against these terrorists and stuff like that. So it was the other side of the proverbial coin, and I think that's always a good sort of angle to have and things like that. And it's one thing that I think Rogue One did really well, was they had the rebels were always like the squeaky clean sort of like, we're the good guys, but the one thing that Rogue One did was they had this sort of gray area where, like Cassian, they murdered people, and they did it for the greater good. And that's the whole sort of kind of thing. It's like, well, maybe they've done things they shouldn't have done, and that's why there's a gray area. And so, as much as the Empire is definitely dark, there is a lighter side to them, but as much as the rebels are not sort of, they're like a gray color, and it's sort of, I like that sort of kind of like sort of difference in it. So yeah, and I love that. I love that whole sort of kind of, certain areas, maybe the Empire would have been counted as good and stuff. It's like the Roman Empire or any empire, the British Empire and stuff, aqueducts and sort of civilization and things like that. But a lot of people say, yeah, but you invaded a bunch of countries and took their land and blah blah blah. I say, yes, but they have this now and they have this now, and it's sort of one of those sort of arguments. Imperialism is never a good thing, but it's a sort of thing that happens. And
it's one of those funny ones. Apparently, in terms of some of the most accepting empires and why it lasted so long, was actually like the Hun Empire, because they actually treated men and women more equally. Like a woman could own their own land, and they didn't necessarily need to be property, but they also were more accepting of things like religious freedom and stuff like that. Or are you about to tell me, no, Sam? This is the problem having any conversation with a historian, unless it's history about like fantasy. You're just shaking your head there. And
no, you're right. They were very I did a video on TikTok actually, but Temujin, who was the name, Genghis Khan isn't actually Genghis Khan, isn't his name. His name was Temujin. Genghis Khan means great king or something along those lines. But they were very tolerant of other religions, and they had like the first ever sort of kind of postal service, like horse-driven postal service and things like that. And they had these sort of a lot of things, but they straight up murdered 40 million people in sort of, as much as like, they accepted certain things. Pretty much they rocked up to your city, and if you didn't give up, they would kill everybody. and they would literally, so they the population of the Earth was reduced by, I can't remember the percentage now.
Okay, 74% of statistics are made up on the spot.
Yeah, so it was very much basically they killed about 40 million people, and the proportion based on the population of the Earth at that time, they basically killed like 20% of the Earth's population. And they're sort of, obviously percentages to think, but compared to what the population of the Earth was at that time, the Huns basically killed.
I remember it was someone was putting out, it was like one of these sort of mock sort of things that they were talking about, and they were like, do you know who one of the biggest Greenpeace people on the planet was? And it was Genghis Khan, and everyone's like, what? How is Genghis Khan? But because he killed so many people, the land could like recover.
Like, I'm ignore me. I'm not talking about the Huns. You're talking about the Huns. I'm talking about the Mongols. I'm an idiot. Oh God, ignore me. It's Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan for the Mongols. I'm sorry, but anyway,
we're talking about the Mongols then.
Yeah. So if you're talking, you were talking about the. That's why it was the Mongols, not the Huns. Yeah, the Huns, they similar-ish thing, but sorry, the Mongols, not the Huns. Sorry, my bad. I was sitting there kind of going, Huns doesn't sound right.
I think we both knew. We were talking about the same one. I think I was thinking of Total War there. That's what was confusing me.
So it was the Mongols. They had the second
curved pose.
They had the second largest empire in the world.
Is it the biggest contiguous empire?
Yeah, the largest contiguous landlocked empire in the world.
Is it really the second biggest?
Yeah,
just overall though. I didn't think it was
British Empire.
Oh, British Empire first, but I thought like how big was the Macedonian Empire under Alexander?
No? It only stretched from Greece, North Africa, went all the way through Persia into the Hindu Kush and stuff, and that's about it. Basically, the Bactrians, who were like sort of like the last sort of kind of Greek, they were the furthest Greek sort of kind of speaking. Was it Bactrian? Yeah, Bactrian. No, Bactrians, Botians. Yeah, one of those ones begins with a B. They were sort of kind of they were sort of Greeks, but they were intermingled with the Indian subcontinent and stuff. But he kind of got to that point. But if you think about that compared to the Roman Empire, which was all of the British Isles, all of North Africa, halfway, pretty much France, Spain, half of Germany, Italy, and then you had Greece, and some of the sort of eastern sort of kind of parts, Attica and stuff like that. But so it was the second, because it was literally just swathes of land. Like a lot of it obviously wasn't highly densely populated, but it was, that's what was good for their sort of kind of warfare, because it was all sort of like horseback riding and stuff. But yeah, they would just straight up murder people. They just straight up go up, and they would do it very badly as well. They would sort of, they had no sort of precondition. Pretty much if you didn't surrender, man, woman, or child would be murdered and or enslaved, and that was pretty much it.
So we're not going for imperials then. The time of empires is over.
Yeah, the thing is, I think the sort of I always thought like the Star Wars, I always thought was a allegory. The word what's when it's sort of, what's the word for
fable, parable?
No, it's basically it's like a parallel to something. Is it an allegory, which is a parallel to something?
It feels like it might be allegory.
Yeah, it could be. If I'm wrong,
James is literally a journalist. I'm sure he'll let us know if we're using the wrong word there.
Yeah, is it an allegory? But basically, I always thought it was like, I'll say allegory because it could be wrong, but we'll see when somebody comments in the thing. But basically, of the British Empire during the American Revolution. So obviously the rebels were the Americans, and the Empire were the British, because obviously all the officers and stuff in the Empire were English, and all the rebels were American and stuff. And I was just like, that just makes sense. But apparently, it was, again, I'm not sure if I'm using the right word, allegory for the Vietnam War,
Oh,
apparently, which is
really?
really odd, which kind of makes America the empire, which is strange because you'd think they would have made the empire a lot more American. So that being said, a lot of stormtroopers are American.
And
Uh,
yet, all of the officers were British.
yeah, so that's why I said it looks like American Revolution to me and stuff. But yeah, it wasn't, you know. I suppose they did destroy a planet. They did
See,
blow up Elberon.
yeah, just overlook that little thing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a lot of kills.
One thing I always find myself, something that always gets me going, that gets me really excited, is whenever you've got like an edge case.
Analogy, that's it.
Ah, thank you.
What's allegory? What's allegory mean now? I'm gonna have to think about allegory.
I'm not sure. Is it not a warning? Something's a warning. So one of the things we mentioned is a warning.
Allegory, a story, a poem, a picture that can be interpreted or reveal hidden meaning. Yeah, it kind of has similar, possible. Yeah, allegory. Yeah, possibly.
But for me, some of the most exciting parts are. Did you ever hear of the Rangdang Xenocides?
No, I don't think so.
So in 30k or 40k, depending on how you look at it, this was one of the most devastating wars to ever take place. It almost annihilated the First Legion. It may or may not have partially got rid of one of the missing legions, because you know how you're missing 2 legions. And there was a thing actually by the author that actually talked about this, and he, because there was always that rumor that the reason that these 2 were left was so you could make your own.
Yeah.
But he came out a while ago and said that's not true. That's not why he made those at all. But he didn't say how they got lost or anything like that. He just said that's not true. We didn't leave them blank for that reason. We left them blank for another reason. And then
see, I don't know it because we were talking to Gav Thorpe on our podcast, and he was saying that, you know, they would never name the 2 legions and stuff like that because it was a way for you to basically make your own, you know, for the purposes of selling toys. You could make your own legions and just say, well, they are one of the lost legions and they've come out of nowhere, and that was a good sort of story sort of plot hole for you to sort of do that. And I think they'd always keep that. I don't think there's going to be any other reason for it, because if they named them, then that sort of stops that sort of thing. I guess you could say they're a chapter, but you know, he basically inferred that was the reason.
Yeah, this is what the other guy that I was reading the interview about was like, that's why we have chapters, so you could put your own. But this guy was basically saying, I'll need to find it later and I'll send it to you. But basically this guy was saying that, you know, it was nothing to do with the Lost Regions being about that. It was to create something. Oh, I'll find it later and I'll send it to you.
You know, there's a lot of inference in that. Obviously, Lehman Russ killed them both. Killed the Primarchs for both legions, and one of the legions is allegedly got absorbed by the Ultramarines. Hence why they are a lot bigger than the other legions and stuff. So, yeah, it would be good. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like the Thunder Warriors and the Lost Legions and stuff. There's lots of story there, but if they go too far into that, then it sort of leaves, you know, you kind of need people to have a bit of imagination about these things and stuff. So, who knows?
Yeah, but, you know, it's helpfully pointed out the idea that the Missing Legions was created to integrate fan chapters as a myth and a long-standing one. Instead, they were added for a splash of mystery as a reference to the lost Roman legions. There you go.
Oh, like the third. What was the ones? What were the ones Varys lost during the Teutoburg Forest? Varys, where are my legions?
Oh, I love that. Vitica did a great one about that, avenging Varys, didn't he?
Yeah.
Recently did a consolidated one. But yeah, for me, there's this war basically that devastated those legions, and one of the sort of the main creatures that you got in it was these mind flayers, and we don't really know what the Rangdang xenovores were, but we have heard of like sort of some of their slave races, the sloth, and they were like these awful mind control creatures, and so like some theories are that maybe they took down one, because I remember from the same sort of thread, it was saying something along the lines of they were not expunged from history because of shame, but because of honor. And it was like it was to be honorable
Who
to
said
their.
who was this from?
I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But it was apparently like an interview with Rick Priestley. That was it. Rick Priestley.
Okay. So Rick Priestley, one of the sort of he obviously founded he was which edition did he actually he might have done Rogue Trader. British game designer, author, mainly known for creating Warhammer miniature. Well, he created Warhammer. Yeah. Okay.
There are two missing Space Marine legions, the 2nd and the 11th. They have been purged from Imperial records. Did you have any vision or plan for these revelation? Did you have any concept? Priestley, I always imagined these legions were deleted from the records as a result of things that happened during the Horse Heresy, and that the purging was a recognition that whatever terrible things they had done or had been done to them in the end redeemed them in some way. So the expulsion was not against their crimes, but rather the forgiven and the forgotten, as opposed to the legions who rebelled, who will never be forgiven. Interesting.
Oh, that's a good angle.
I'll put it. I'll put it in the old chatteroo. So anyone that wants to read this interview with Rick Priestley can give it a little read.
Yeah, that's a really good
So
angle.
for me, I don't give a hoot about the missing legions. We got enough Space Marines, but knowing like about the Rang Dang, I'm like, oh, what were they? What were these creatures that could almost wipe out Space Marine legions? And there's nothing about them. I love it and I hate it. It's like the Thunder Warriors. Oh, I would love to make a Thunder Warrior army. So basically, I just want to be like my gothy self and just be like, you don't understand. My army is so edgy that you.
Oh, but the Thunder Warrior stuff's really tragic and stuff. I think that's definitely an angle they could go for and stuff. But yeah, that's what I love about sort of like we talked because we had Adrian Tchaikovsky on the podcast.
Oh, really? Oh, you've had some of my favorite authors.
Yeah, we had him on twice. This is our second time we've had him on and stuff.
What's it called? It's like the insect series.
Yeah. Oh crap, it's gone.
Every single one of them.
Yeah,
God, I've read them like 3 times through.
Well,
Something of War.
Because oh crap, it's going to annoy me now because we literally just had him on the podcast on Monday. Because he just released. Well, I say released. He did it in February. A Gene Stealer cult book.
Shadows of the Apt. Shadows of the Apt.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, all the different insects. Yeah, the different sort of types. Yeah. So we had Adrian Tchaikovsky. We've had him on twice and stuff, and he's just written a book on the Gene Stealer cult. Which is about them actually being the good guys in a certain way, which is quite good. So it's basically about them rebelling against the Mechanicum, rebelling against Mechanicum.
Gene Stealers.
Yeah, Gene Stealer cult. So basically, the whole, and it's quite a good angle. He basically has it where the Gene Stealer cult basically are brought up generationally to believe that they're fighting against, they're being told that these angels from the sky will come and deliver them from basically servitude, and that's what it is. 40, yep. And we talked about this on the podcast, which should be up this week at some point in time, by the way.
It's a Patreon one. Are you talking about the procrastination one? That was a Patreon one.
No, I'm talking about the Geek Pride cast.
Oh, sorry, the Geek Pride one. Sorry, you're trying to promote a different podcast on this podcast.
The Geek Pride cast. Yeah, shameless. My apologies, Geek Pride cast. But yeah, he says that basically, there's these. They're basically told that there's these, they're sort of indoctrinated that over many hundreds of years, sort of these sort of angels are going to come and deliver them from servitude and stuff. And they basically got working class, down and out people getting sort of fed into the 40k meat grinder that is the Imperium, and they have why do we do this? So they rebel, and in there again is one person's freedom fighters, another person's terrorist. They rebel against what is the Mechanicum on this planet, fighting for their liberty, and basically await the Hive fleet to come and rescue them. Unbeknownst to them, as most Gene Stealer cults don't know, is that as soon as the Hive fleet hits the planet, that they eat all the gene stealers as well and
But
stuff.
do you know what's even worse than that? Do you know what the lore is regarding that? So they have this holy connection spread out by the patriarch that fills them with bliss. But do you know what they do? The last thing that the hive mind does. So what would be nice for them to do if they were going to eat them all? Because we all know that they were going to be eaten. What would be the nice thing for the hive mind to do?
A painless death.
Painless, or to keep them believing that they are being saved.
Yeah.
They don't. The last thing they do is sever the connection, so they realize what they've done before they're devoured.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I know.
So yeah, I didn't go into too much depth about his book and stuff like that because I obviously want to read it and stuff. But yeah. So he was talking about, because we talked about squats and stuff, because he's just bought himself the new squat
Leagues of Votan.
Yeah, and he says he likes the Necromunda sort of this, what is it, this sort of kind of bug riding.
Yeah, the
thing.
miners.
Yeah, and stuff. So he's got himself into painting and things like that. We get some good guests on the Geek Pride cast. You know, so Gav Thorpe's been on there. Yeah, we got some pretty good names. So yeah, I wonder if I can get Jonathan Keeble on it at some point in time. That'd be awesome.
You would just be trying to make him talk as much as possible. You'd be like,
all the time, man. This sounds really weird, but just let me do something while you talk in the background. Yeah.
So, have you read the Shadows of the Act series?
No,
or
I haven't.
He's
got loads.
The other series, which is because I would have thought the other series would have suited you more than Napoleonic. The naval battles series.
Yeah, he's got loads of stuff, but the thing is, it's down to basically everything in a queue. So I've got a queue of stuff to go through. So I've got a load of. I've got. It's
so wonderfully heavily political. That's what I really like about it, because you get the aspects of each of the sides of it, and the idea that you have the act and the inact is so good, because you've basically got the old races like moths and what are the guys with the big scythe claws for hands?
Mantis. Yeah.
They're all the inapt, so they can't use technology, but they can use magic and stuff, and so they're amazing fighters and stuff like that. And then you have the wasps and the beetles who understand engineering but don't understand magic, and it's this war of the old world and the new world coming together. Oh, so good.
And
then he brings in it. Yeah. Then the ocean comes in.
Could have been on
You've
the
got
podcast.
no appreciation. Next, you'll be saying you've had Michael J. Sullivan or Patrick O'Brien or David Eddings. And
who did we have? We just done a podcast, or we did an interview with.
My problem is I would just fanboy out. I think that's my biggest danger.
Yeah, the thing is a lot, because Pete, Pete's sort of one of the guys from Geek Pride. He does some freelance journalism for the BBC and things like that, so he knows a lot of these writers. He did an interview with, he sent it over to me, if I can find the thing that it is.
One that I would absolutely love if they made into, I don't know if it would suit a game, it would suit a video game.
Brian Talbot, sorry.
Nice.
Brian Talbot, yeah.
But have you ever read the Nightside Beat series by Simon R. Green?
I don't think so, no.
I think it would make such a good TV series. It's kind of Constantine-ish. So basically you have London, but then you have Weird London, which has all the gods and monsters. And the main character is a private eye, but with a secret gift for finding things.
What's it called? It's not called Rivers of London, is it?
No, that's a different one.
Is it Ben Aranovich? We've had him on as well. He's...
Sorry, it's one of Claire's favorite books. I've got the signed first edition of it.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, it's called the Nightside series.
Okay, all right.
And it's really, really good if you ever want an audiobook or a book to read.
There's loads, like I said, like the Gareth Powell stuff sounded really good. But the audiobooks are just at least the first one I started listening to was a struggle, and I just couldn't get into it. It was distracting me more than I had it on. I was doing something. I was like, this woman's accent is doing my melting, and I'm not sure if I could sort of deal with it anymore. So I was just like, I'm just gonna have to read them because the audiobooks are just I just can't deal with it and stuff. So, which is a shame because like when we talk to him, it's just like those sound like awesome books, and for all intents and purposes, they're being made into a TV series and stuff. So they are obviously very good, but the audiobooks just.
Yeah, you're right. It was Bennett Anovich for Rivers of London.
Yeah, Rivers of London, Brown Arvit. Yeah, we've had him on. He's a really funny guy.
Yeah, I didn't get around to reading it. It's one of those things is if you get a signatured book, you can't read the signatured book. You've got to buy a second copy of the book, and then you read the second copy of the book. This is how when my wife moved in, we ended up with some copies of 4 books, 2 of which you're not allowed to read.
Oh, I do the same, man. I've got especially I've got limited edition ones that never get touched, and then the ones that I'll read. And so it's like the new Horus Heresy books, they always bring out this sort of limited edition, sort of leather bound, nice one. So I buy that, and then it stays in the shelf. And then I buy a hardback version that I read. And then I buy the audiobook as well because it's good just to have it, so I can listen to it and stuff.
I keep trying to catch up with the Horus Heresy. Man, there's so many books.
The thing
Was
is,
there 70 books at this point?
the thing is, there's loads of books, and they take sort of bearing in mind like some of these Joe Abercrombie ones I'm listening to, they're like 20 hours long, 20 hours of audiobook and stuff. So you think, fuck, take a long time, but because you're chipping away at it every night and stuff, it goes really quickly and stuff. That's one thing I like about audiobooks is literally 5 minutes in the car going down the road to the shop, I've got the audiobook on the way back, got the audiobook on, taking a dog for a walk, got the audiobook on, doing something around the house, got the audiobook on, and it all sort of kind of adds up, and then you get through them pretty quickly.
I think Gamel's one that I have not read enough. It's one of the main ones, isn't it?
Gamel?
Something Gamel?
Garrow?
Did you say David? Yeah, Claire says David Gamel. Does that ring a bell?
David Gamel doesn't ring a bell.
But it's definitely a book series that I have not read enough of / at all.
Well, there's loads like like I said, my boss is really good. I'm really bad at picking new series up. I'm just good at sort of people going, this is a really good series, you should listen to it or watch it or read it. So the Red Rising by not Peter Klein, Pierce Brown. He is it Pierce Brown? I mean, it's just because of these bloody names, and I'll make sure I've got it right before I start saying, yeah, Pierce Brown, I was right. Okay, so Pierce Brown, Red Rising, really good, sort of kind of futuristic, but some of the battles, especially in the last sort of kind of the last book, and then the first 2 books of the second trilogy, superb, like really, really in-depth stuff. Like he's obviously progresses as he's going along. It starts off as a bit of a Hunger Games type of thing, which is good in itself, like Battle Royale sort of Hunger Games sort of thing, and then it progresses to more political intrigue, and then it has straight up sort of like mech tanks, Space Marine type fighting going on, and it's so well done. It's like brilliant, really well. Again, with the Joe Abercrombie stuff, I had no real interest in it, and then I just got hooked. They're just so really well written. And then there's another set called a guy called Peter Klein's. They're called the X-Zero series. So it's basically superheroes in a zombie apocalypse, and basically the X's are the name of the zombies, and it's basically this group of superheroes in Hollywood who have basically this sort of little enclave, and they're trying to basically find survivors and deal with this horde of X. And then some of the bad guys are sort of kind of using the zombies against them, and there's about 4 or 5 of those books and stuff, and they're really, really, really good, worth a listen.
Nice. Well, I think we'll round it off here. I'm going to give you the opportunity to volunteer 3 things forward for the listeners. 1, a book or audiobook that you'd recommend. 2, a YouTube channel that you would recommend. And 3, a TV series that you'd recommend that you're going to get the juices flowing. Do you want to go first, or will I?
You can go first.
Are you afraid that I might steal any of the ones that you might suggest?
No, you can go first. That's fine. Yeah.
No. Okay, so the first one I would say is Under the Eagle by Simon Scarrow. If you're into sort of Roman history, it is so good because you get to learn real history, but through fake characters, and it's the interaction between those two. Really good. In Vitica, you see a theme appearing here. I'm trying not to say Rome for the third one. In Vitica is, if you've if you're in things like hearing about battles and hearing about like the rise and fall of monarchs and stuff like that, it's such a good series, and they've partnered up quite a lot now. So there's even a channel that does, it's called something like The Front Line, where they do live action stuff, but absolutely fantastic. And then the third one, the TV series that I would recommend that people watch,
Rome.
I guess I should probably mix up. I'm gonna go with I'm tempted, but no, I'm gonna go with Killjoys, because I think that has sort of a cyberpunky Necromunda vibe that I really enjoy as well, and it's maybe something that people haven't heard of as much. So, what would your three be?
Okay, so books. I would say, ooh, is it going to be the? I'll say the Red, because we're kind of talked about Space Marines and stuff like that. It's similar. Like Red Rising. There's a Red Rising trilogy. Now it's on its fifth book, on its second trilogy, but you start with the Red Rising trilogy. So Red Rising is the first set of book by Pierce Brown. If you get an audiobook, it's really good. There's obviously, they're all on there. Definitely worth it. Starts off again, it's very sort of Hunger Games, and you're a bit, it's Hunger Games, but the Irish accent at the start is a bit annoying, but persevere with it, because it's superb, so good. There's a lot of stuff happens in it. It's very sort of, because it's effectively about a civil war, so there's a lot of backstabbing and stuff going on, and really well thought out. So that's definitely worth going for books. As for a YouTube channel, when you're not watching Geek Pride channel for its podcast and Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, you should watch. I'm not. Kings and Generals is a favorite of mine, but I'm going to say Oversimplified, because Oversimplified is history done in a fun way, and it's good history, but it sort of, I think it helps you learn a lot more because it's funny, so it sticks in your brain a lot more. Thing with Kings and Generals and History Marsh and stuff like that is it's a lot of dates and names, and as much as it's awesome because it's got lots of little maps and things, and sort of like, cavalry, all the different sort of kind of divisions and stuff running around on these maps and stuff. Oversimplified is just that. It's oversimplified, so you get all the history facts in a comical way, and it sort of kind of sticks with you.
Have you ever watched Tier Zoo? Tier Zoo?
No, I don't think so.
You might enjoy that then, because in terms of educational channels that make it entertaining for kids, that knocks it out of the park. It makes all the facts about animals into a video game. So it's like, in this meta of the game, we're going to be talking about spiders. Are they OP? The arachnids have been around for, and then they talk about the history of the animal, and then they bring up little charts of like power, speed,
that's cool,
agility,
that's
and
cool.
like they make it like that. And they've got all the sound effects. Did you ever play RuneScape?
Yeah.
So when they fight, it's like doink, doink, like the noise of that. So good.
Yep. As for TV, what am I gonna go for? To be honest, I'm absolutely loving The Boys at the minute. I think it's just,
does that get the juices flowing after Hero-gasm?
No, oh man, that's just like hilarious. Okay, for stuff that's going to make you sort of kind of want to. Historically, I think Kings and Generals is a really good. So it does a podcast as well, but it's a really good sort of. It's not a TV series. We're talking TV series. Sorry, we've done the YouTube channel. Oh God, I don't know what's going to sort of inspire you to sort of kind of want to do hobby stuff TV series wise.
You got World War II, you got fantasy, you got Necromunda, you got high fantasy. Maybe we should just go with the latest TVs. I mean, technically, The Boys could inspire you to want to play the Marvel Cinematic Universe
or the DC
board game.
Yeah, but I don't know, to be honest. For TV series, like, I guess obviously if you're talking World War II, you've got to go Band of Brothers, don't you? Really, Band of Brothers is just like superb. It's really good. Pacific is really good as well, but yeah, I don't know. Again, TV wise and stuff, it's more films I think that get me kind of going do that and stuff. But yeah, it's more like if I'm sort of wanting to do stuff, I usually have audio in the background because it makes it easier for me.
Less distracting.
Yes, less distracting.
Fantastic. Well, if you can think of 3 that you would recommend, put down below the audiobook or book that you'd want to read, put in the YouTube channel that you would recommend that inspires you, and put in a TV series, and we will choose one of the winners to get some of our merch, which will be releasing somewhat soon. We will send you out a t-shirt. We'll probably choose it from a random one, unless we see one that we're just like, oh, that's a really good set of 3. If we can both agree on a comment, we'll choose a comment. If not, we use a randomizer, because it's not like we actually agree on anything.
Are these one of
But
the?
thank you very much for.
Are these one of the t-shirts
Sorry.
I designed, by the way, or?
Yes, indeed. We'll send someone out, even if it's a limited edition t-shirt that never gets released to anyone else, but that's even cooler.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining us for our first ever live. Do let us know if there's anything that we can do to sort of improve this. We are planning on doing this on Wednesday evenings, not normally starting quite as late as we were. We're normally going to be aiming for about 7:30. We'll put up in advance next time, but it was more important that we actually got this one done. And there was a lot of work that Matt had to do in the background. So thank you very much, Matt, for getting that all done. If you enjoyed the podcast, giving it a like, subscribe, commenting on it really does help. Tell your friends about it. Give it 5 stars or more on any podcast sort of services that you're listening to this on. And if you really enjoyed it, you can check out our Patreon, where we give a full-length episode every single month and 30 minutes bonus footage for every one of these. But from myself and Matt, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.